Brilliance Audio presents Targets of Opportunity by Joe Weber. Read by J. Charles.
Stumbling and weaving, Brad Austin blindly plunged into the dense undergrowth and fought his way through the branches and thickets. Ignoring the shells that ripped through the vegetation, he turned and fired another 2 rounds at his pursuers. When they dropped to the ground, he crawled through the underbrush leading to the river. With his lungs heaving, Brad stopped to peer through the leaves. His hopes sank when he saw some of the soldiers moving to his left and right. They would soon have him surrounded. In the distance, he heard the familiar beating sound of rotor blades. The helicopter was only seconds away. Oh, God, give me the strength to hang on. He fired his last rounds at the infantrymen nearing the edge of the water, then dropped the revolver and groped clumsily for his survival radio. "Chase, open up the machine gun. I need cover fire along the riverbank." His plea was answered by 3 short, distinct bursts of fire across the water next to the shoreline. The trail of splashes turned to mud splatters as the rounds walked up the bank and through the men. When the advancing soldiers stopped and began shouting at each other, Brad plunged toward the riverbank. He plowed through the thick foliage, dragging his leg and clutching the survival radio. "I'm close to the water," he gasped as a bullet ricocheted off a tree trunk in front of him. "Next to the shore, north edge of the trees." Brad heard the metallic voice from the radio, but he ignored it in his desperate attempt to reach safety. Another high-powered round whined past his head and exploded a leaf a foot away. My luck is going to run out. Expending the last of his energy, Brad charged through the maze while he heard the staccato rounds of the M60 raking the shoreline. He also heard someone scream in agony. He dropped the radio and lowered his head, forging his way through the last of the obstacles. Suddenly free from the entanglement, Brad fell face down on the muddy bank. He clawed his way toward the river and flinched when a row of geysers blasted across the water next to him. Brad looked to his right and saw his tormentor disappear in a hail of machine-gun fire. Above, the helicopter was slowing to a hover, and the rescue sling was skimming the water. Brad crawled into the water and rose to his knees. He frantically waved his arms at the helo, but the crew had already spotted him. Elvin Crowder continued to decimate the soldiers, while Mitchell maneuvered the sling toward Austin. It dangled tantalizingly close, just out of reach. Brad tried to get to his feet, then lunged at the horse collar. He missed and fell headlong into the water. He struggled to his knees and gagged when he swallowed a mouthful of water. Rudy Jimenez was acting as a backup on the flight controls when the helicopter unexpectedly tilted steeply and slid sideways. The tips of the rotor blades nipped the water for a split second. "Chase!" Jimenez gasped as he clutched the controls and righted the helo. "You okay?" Mitchell groaned, then slumped in his harness as his arms went limp. A single hole in the windshield marked the entry point of the round that had struck the pilot in the neck.
"What's going on?"
Crowder demanded while he continued to blaze away at the soldiers. Rudy ignored the gunner and skillfully moved the rescue sling over Austin. "Grab it, Brad," he said to himself as another round hit the top of the windshield. "They're going to blow us out of the sky when we run out of ammo." Movement to the left caught his eye. "Son of a bitch!" he swore out loud when he saw the convoy grinding to a halt. When the machine guns mounted on the trucks commenced firing, Jimenez squeezed down in his seat and concentrated on flying smoothly. The sling was skipping toward him, but Brad was blinded by the spray churned up by the rotor blades. When the harness bumped him, Austin frantically grabbed it and stuck his arm through the opening. "Go!" he yelled into the gale-force wind, then grappled with the unwieldy horse collar. He felt himself being pulled through the water before he could get his head and other arm through the sling. "Sweet Jesus, I'm not going to make it!" Brad clutched the sling in the crook of his right elbow and used his other hand to seize his wrist in a death grip. He closed his eyes and prayed for renewed strength. Supporting the weight of his soaked flight suit, Brad strained when his body was yanked from the river. His feet bounced off the water a couple of times as the helicopter swiveled and gained speed. He twirled precariously on the end of the winch line as the helo climbed and accelerated. "I can't hang on forever."